Well, would you look at this big block of random sponginess? I actually cannot tell you exactly what it is made of. It came as a piece of packaging and feels kind of like one of those floral blocks that you arrange flowers on that holds water, but with those, when you push a thumb into it, the imprint stays, whereas on this, it rebounds back more like a very firm foam. Anywho, I am so sure you are fascinated with that waffle, but move on we must. I have had this block for ages, thinking it would be good for felting onto, and today is the day we get to see if it works. So let me grab my felting drawer. Oh ho ho, let us rummage. Here are my needles. I have a bunch of them because sometimes it's helpful to tape them together to maximise my teeny tiny poking power. If you've not seen this type of needle before, I'll try and hold it closer. I'm not sure if you can see, but these aren't smooth all the way down. They have little bits which can catch felty fibres with. I absolutely love tools. I love their purposefulness. And then we have wool. Oh, how joyful. As you can see, I have some hodgepodge bits and bobs, mainly garnered from previous craft kits. And then I have one pack of bluey hues, which I haven't used at all yet and which are calling to me. Luckily, I have some white and a bit of black too, which I am sure will be helpful. Okay, enough chitty-chatty ding-dongs. Let's go poke some wool into foam and see what happens. I don't think it's a great idea for me to go into this wool poking without a little bit of guidance of what I am trying to achieve. So I have a white pastel pencil which shows up on this foam quite nicely, and I'm sketching the basic shape of a fox head. I only want the top part of the head, like it's peeping into the frame. And while I don't look at it and think, ooh, what a beauty, it will do the job. I'm going to be covering it up with wool anyway. It don't need to be masterpiecey. This is what we're going with. Are the ears weird? They might just be. Well, let's make a start on the wool. I reckon I'll start with this lighter colour. It's actually a little bit lilac-y, but because it's so light, I'm thinking I'll use it on the eyes. Let's start locking those in, and hopefully we can build everything else around them. I figure I'll wind this small amount of wool around in a spiral and poke it in as I go. And it does work. This foam is very receptive to having wool pushed into it. It's pretty clingy, so it's all looking pretty positive. My friends, we need a pupil. Enter the black wool, and I'm pulling out a tiny clutch of strands and then twirling them into a bundle. I have some small squares of foam that I use for side quest felting, so on there I'm poking that little ball of black wool into, hopefully, a nice small round ball. It looks very much like a soot sprite from Totoro. Once it is somewhat holding together, I pop it onto my eyeball and gently try to poke it in, tucking in all those wispy strands to make it neat. I then finish spiralling the lighter eye colour around it, hoping to make it all look somewhat okay. Yeah, that's somewhat okay. I'm going to bung on some blue to get building the main face. Now this is very much winging it, just plopping it on and pulling it into the directions that feels natural that fur might go. It all feels a little bit rubbish looking, but I keep reminding myself that this is so early in the process. Of course it's going to look underwhelming. I know that this is going to be an exercise in layering, and therefore it's going to take some time to build. So let's just enjoy the absolute eeriness of this creation with its current one-eyed glare, and keep the creative faith that it's all going to be fine. just chat for a moment about how very chill it is to sit there poking wool for an hour. I am finding this particular project to be very relaxed, more so than some other felting that I've done before, and I think it is because that I'm felting on the flat. Previously, I've made more 3D felty things, like back when I tried the Mr. Mole felting kit. I'll link that video if you fancy watching past me figuring out felting. And in anything I've ever made like that, I have poked myself with the needle at least once. It's a felting peril that you try to avoid but just don't always manage to. However, during this project, I do not pin myself once. Hurrah! And I think it's simply that I'm not having to hold the main foam very much. I'm just guiding the wool with my second hand and it's not within needle range. So that's nice. It makes the whole thing a lot more laid back when you're not watching your fingers like a hawk. Oh, now, this is where I make a mini breakthrough in my thinking. I suddenly realised that I could cut the wool to have blunt edges that fluffed up from the surface. Aha! Not sure why it took me so long to figure that out, but once I did, I got quite excitable, and the creative faith had a big old boost. I could suddenly see where this foxy face was going and how I might get there. From this point, I am cutting pieces of wool in different colours and layering them, keeping the blunt edges on the side of the face and ears and radiating them across the head. It begins to be very fluffy indeed, and oh my goodness, is it pleasing! The ears are confusing me just a bit. I'm not entirely sure how best to fluff them and still have depth. I'm adding some short chunks of wool along them to create fluffy edges. Probably too fluffy really, but as I say, it's all I've got right now. I'll do a bit and then I'll probably revisit. First, I hadn't planned on using this very dark and bright blue, but I am feeling at this point like I need more contrast to get a bit of depth into those eyes and ears. I popped this first bit on like a trial and was rather pleased with myself with how it came out. It was a bit fluky, but I really like how it sunk into those lighter blues and just made it pop a little bit more. So I attempt it on the other side and then start adding it into all sorts of places. Also, just a note about the eyes, at no point do I think that I have nailed these. I keep revisiting and re-poking them throughout, trying to get them similar and not so starey looking, but stare they do, and I don't think they will ever stop. have much black wool, but with the bit that I do have, I'm adding in little bits around the eyes. Again, to try and deepen the sockets and create more structure to the face. I do think this comes out quite good and was definitely needed. I do also try and add a teeny bit of white to an eye to try and create a highlight in it, but it doesn't really end up being very noticeable, so I didn't bother on the other eye. With some final strands of white, I add in a few highlights on the fur. I think they add a little something something, and then I add another chunk of fluff to the ears in an attempt to find peace with them. This time I angle the fluff upwards rather than sideways, and I think it does help a bit. They are now probably way too fluffy for a proper fox, but hey, this is a blue fox who has come from my creative noodle, so the rules are very different here. This is where I'm deciding to leave Foxy Blue, and I'm pretty happy with it. If I had had more black wool and a little bit of forethinking, I would have liked to have put black felting across the empty foam bits. I think it would have been a good way to deepen the background and push out the blue colour more, and also I could have added tiny stars across it too. I think that might have looked sweet. But hey, that is something I have learned to take forward into future makes. Thank you so much for watching this video and going on this felty foray with me. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do consider tapping the like button, as it helps the video find other like-minded souls. You can do it on your TV by pushing up or down on your remote, and you should see the little thumbs up icon to select. Your sticking with me to the end means such a lot, so pop a wool emoji or just type the word wool in the comments so I know that you made it, because I love to thank you personally. I will meet you back here soon. Stay curious, keep making happy, and I will see you next time.